The most bizarre secrets people took to their graves. Imagine this: someone you've known your whole life, your best friend, a sibling, even your parent, passes away. And only then do you discover the mind-blowing secret they've been hiding for years. Maybe it's a double life, a crime, or something way weirder. These are the stories of the secrets people took to their graves. Stories so bizarre they'll leave you questioning how well you know the people around you. Grab a snack, because this is about to get wild. Part 1. The Wedding Crasher Mom. Okay, so this first story comes from a user who shared a chilling secret about their mom after her passing. Let's call them Jess. Jess's mom had always been the life of the party. Fun, loud, and just a little nosy. After her mom passed away unexpectedly, Jess was tasked with sorting through her belongings. In one of her mom's old shoeboxes, Jess found a stack of dusty, yellowed photographs. Most of them were normal family pics, except for one set. These photos showed her mom, dressed in a fancy gown, posing at what looked like someone's wedding. Except, Jess had no idea who these people were. She flipped through photo after photo, her mom laughing with the bride, dancing with the groom, even helping serve cake to guests. The thing is, Jess couldn't remember any family or friends who had gotten married during that time, so she started asking around. Relatives, friends, anyone who might know. That's when her aunt dropped the bomb. "Oh, your mom used to crash weddings for fun back in the day." Turns out, Jess's mom had been sneaking into strangers' weddings, pretending to know the bride or groom, and partying like she belonged there. And she didn't stop there. Jess found more photos, graduation parties, baby showers, even what looked like a retirement celebration, all with total strangers. But here's where it gets even weirder. Among the photos, Jess found a collection of items her mom had apparently swiped from these events. Monogrammed napkins, champagne glasses, even wedding favors. The kicker? There was a wedding guest book with her mom's fake name signed in it. When Jess shared this story online, someone commented, "Your mom was living the ultimate rom-com life, and none of us knew." Part 2. Grandpa's Second Family. This next story? Straight out of a soap opera. A guy, we'll call him Mike, shared the jaw-dropping secret his family discovered when his grandpa passed away. Now, Mike always thought his grandpa was a pretty ordinary guy. He worked hard, loved fishing, and spent his retirement doting on his grandkids. But when his grandpa died, a mystery unraveled that would leave Mike and his family in shock. It started at the funeral. While the family was greeting guests, this unfamiliar woman walked in with two younger adults. They didn't seem too out of place at first, but when the woman approached Mike's grandma, she said something that made everyone freeze. "I'm so sorry for your loss. My kids and I were very close to our dad." Our dad. Mike's grandma stared at the woman, and for a moment, everyone thought it was a misunderstanding. But nope. The woman went on to explain that she and her kids had been part of Mike's grandpa's other family. For over 30 years, his grandpa had been leading a double life. When the shock wore off, Mike's family started piecing it all together. Grandpa's business trips every other weekend, they weren't about work. The unexplained expenses, they were for his second family. He even had a separate house where they all lived, a house no one in Mike's family had ever seen. But here's the real kicker. When they went through his things, they found two sets of everything. 2 wedding rings, 2 anniversary cards, even 2 stacks of family photos, one with Mike's family and one with the other. Mike later said his grandma took it surprisingly well, joking, "At least now I know why he never remembered our anniversary." Part 3. The Mysterious Locked Room. This story, it's the definition of curiosity killed the cat. A woman, we'll call her Emily, grew up in a house with a strange rule. She was never allowed to enter one particular room. It was a small windowless room at the end of the upstairs hallway, always locked. If she asked about it, her dad would give her vague answers like, "It's just storage," or "There's nothing interesting in there." Naturally, this only made her more curious. As she got older, Emily tried every trick in the book to sneak in. Picking the lock, peeking through the keyhole, but no luck. Her dad was obsessive about keeping the door locked, even changing the lock entirely when she once found an old spare key. Eventually, she gave up and accepted that it was just one of her dad's quirks. Years later, her dad passed away. While clearing out his belongings, Emily remembered the mysterious room and decided it was finally time to see what was inside. She found the key in her dad's desk drawer, and with a mix of excitement and dread, she unlocked the door. What she found made her stomach drop. Inside the room was a full-blown shrine to a woman Emily didn't recognize. There were photos of her, smiling, laughing, sitting by a lake, along with handwritten letters, pressed flowers, and a necklace in a glass case. The woman's name, written on some of the letters, was Claire. Here's the twist. After doing some digging, Emily discovered that Claire had been her dad's fiancée before he met her mom. Claire had died in a car accident just weeks before their wedding. Her dad never told anyone about her, not even Emily's mom. For decades, he'd kept this secret room as a way to hold on to Claire's memory, locking it away from the rest of the world. Emily said she felt a mix of sadness and anger when she found out. She understood his grief, but it made her question how much of his life with her mom had been overshadowed by the woman in the locked room. Part 4. The Hidden Heist. Stash. This story comes straight out of a crime drama, but it's 100% real. A guy named Tom shared the unbelievable secret his dad took to his grave. Tom's dad, a quiet, unassuming man, worked as a janitor at a local bank for over 20 years. He wasn't flashy and lived a pretty modest life. So when he passed away, Tom expected to find little more than old furniture and some sentimental keepsakes in his house. Instead, Tom found a hidden stash that turned his dad's life story upside down. While cleaning out the basement, Tom discovered a false wall behind an old set of shelves. Inside the hidden compartment were boxes filled with cash, thousands of dollars in neatly stacked bundles. Along with the cash were several old, dusty lockboxes, each containing rolls of coins, jewelry, and even a few antique watches. Tom was floored. Where had all this money come from? At first, he thought his dad had been saving up secretly over the years, but as he kept digging, he found something that raised even bigger questions: an old newspaper clipping tucked into one of the boxes. The headline read, "Local bank robbed, $200,000 stolen, suspect still at large." Tom immediately recognized the date on the clipping. It was from the late 1970s, right around the time his dad had started working at the bank. He couldn't believe it. His dad, the man who barely spoke above a whisper, had been involved in a bank heist. The pieces started falling into place. The late-night, overtime shifts, the reason his dad always seemed nervous when talking about money, and why he never spent much despite having all this hidden wealth. It seemed like Tom's dad had been living in fear of getting caught, keeping his stolen fortune hidden for decades. Tom later said he didn't know what to do with the money, turn it in or keep it. But one thing was clear. The mild-mannered janitor his family knew had been hiding a jaw-dropping secret all along. Part 5. The Long-Lost Twin. This one is straight-up mind-blowing and kind of heartbreaking. A woman, let's call her Mia, shared the story of a family secret she only discovered after her mom passed away. Mia's mom had always been a bit overprotective, especially when it came to Mia's health. Growing up, her mom was constantly at her side. Every doctor's appointment, every scraped knee, every sniffle. At the time, Mia thought it was just normal parental love. But after her mom died, she uncovered the shocking truth about why her mom had been so protective. While sorting through her mom's things, Mia found a small, weathered photo album tucked away in the back of her mom's closet. It was filled with baby pictures, except not all of them were of her. At first, Mia thought she was just mistaken. Maybe it was a cousin or some other relative. But as she flipped through the album, she found something that sent chills down her spine. A birth certificate with her last name, but the name on it wasn't hers. The birth date was the same as hers, and the baby's name was listed as Lila. Mia went to her dad for answers, and that's when the full story came out. She had a twin sister, Lila, who had died when they were just a few months old. Lila had been born with a rare heart condition that couldn't be treated at the time, and her passing devastated her parents. Mia's mom, heartbroken and terrified of losing another child, had decided not to tell her about her twin. Instead, she poured all her energy into making sure Mia was safe and healthy, even if it meant being overprotective. Mia later said that finding out about her twin was both heartbreaking and healing. She felt an unexplainable connection to a sister she never got to know, and said it made her understand her mom's actions in a completely new light. Part 6. The Secret War Hero. This story is about a secret so incredible, it turned a quiet grandpa into a full-on legend. A guy named Ryan shared this about his grandfather, a man who had always been kind, humble, and a little old-fashioned. Grandpa rarely talked about his past, and when asked about his time in the military, he'd just wave it off and say, "I did my duty, nothing more." When Grandpa passed away, Ryan and his family began sorting through his belongings. That's when they stumbled upon a box labeled Private Keep Out. Naturally, curiosity won, and they opened it. Inside, they found medals, lots of medals, bronze stars, purple hearts, even a Distinguished Service Cross. But that wasn't all. There were also old black and white photographs of Grandpa in uniform, standing with other soldiers, some of whom had handwritten notes on the back. "To the bravest man I've ever met," or "Thanks for saving my life, brother." And then, tucked beneath the medals and photos, was a journal. As Ryan flipped through the pages, he discovered his grandpa's unbelievable story. During World War II, Grandpa had been part of a top-secret mission behind enemy lines. He'd been a paratrooper, dropped into hostile territory to gather intelligence and disrupt enemy supply routes. One entry described how his squad had been ambushed, and Grandpa, despite being injured, led the survivors to safety. Another detailed how he single-handedly disabled a machine gun nest that had pinned down his unit. The journal also revealed a darker side: the fear, the losses, and the heavy burden of leadership. Grandpa had carried these memories for decades, choosing not to burden his family with the horrors he had witnessed and endured. Ryan said his family was stunned. To them, Grandpa had always been the quiet guy who loved gardening and playing chess, not a war hero who had risked his life countless times. It changed the way they saw him forever. Ryan ended his story with a powerful thought. The heroes we look up to are often right in front of us. They just don't need the world to know. With the money, turn it in or keep it. But one thing was clear. The mild-mannered janitor his family knew had been hiding a jaw-dropping secret all along. Part 7. The Underground Artist. This next story is about a secret double life that no one saw coming. A woman named Laura shared this story about her uncle, a quiet and reserved man who worked as an accountant his whole life. He was the kind of guy who showed up to family gatherings with a modest gift and a smile, always polite, but never the center of attention. When Laura's uncle passed away, the family began going through his small, neatly kept apartment. That's when they found something that blew their minds: a locked storage unit key tucked into a drawer. Curious, Laura and her parents decided to check it out. What they found inside the storage unit left them speechless. The unit was filled wall to wall with art, paintings, sculptures, sketches, even intricate carvings. The artwork was stunning, ranging from abstract to hyper-realistic. Some pieces were massive, others small and delicate. It was clear this wasn't just a hobby. It was the work of someone with incredible talent and years of dedication. Among the art were stacks of letters from galleries, collectors, and fans. Apparently, Laura's uncle had been a semi-famous underground artist who went by the pseudonym Kale. His work had been displayed in private exhibitions and even sold for thousands of dollars. The family was floored. Laura couldn't believe the man she thought of as her shy, numbers-focused uncle had been living a secret life as a prolific artist. The best part? They found a journal where he explained why he never told anyone. He wrote, "Art was my escape, my therapy. Sharing it with the world under a pseudonym was enough. I didn't want to be Kale to my family. I wanted to just be your uncle." Laura said the discovery brought her family closer together. They decided to honor his legacy by organizing a public exhibit of his work, finally giving Kale the recognition he deserved. Part 8. The Forgotten Fortune. This story proves that sometimes the secrets people take to their graves aren't just shocking. They can be life-changing. A man, let's call him Derek, shared what happened when his great-aunt, an eccentric woman who lived alone her whole life, passed away. Everyone in the family loved Aunt Millie, but she was known for being frugal. She lived in the same modest house for decades, wore clothes that were always a little too worn, and reused everything from wrapping paper to coffee filters. So, when Aunt Millie passed, no one expected her estate to be worth much. The family was mostly focused on honoring her memory, not her belongings. But while going through her house, Derek and his mom found something strange hidden in the attic: an old suitcase locked with several rusted clasps. When they finally pried it open, their jaws hit the floor. Inside were stacks of crisp, banded bills. thousands upon thousands of dollars. Alongside the cash were several certificates of deposit, CDs, and bank bonds dating back decades. After some digging, they discovered that Aunt Millie had amassed a small fortune, worth well over $1 million. But here's the kicker. No one had a clue why she lived like she was broke. As Derek and his mom sifted through her papers, they found a handwritten note that explained everything. Millie had grown up during the Great Depression, a time when money was scarce, and banks couldn't always be trusted. That fear stuck with her entire life. She saved and hoarded her money, convinced she might need it one day, but never willing to spend it on herself. Derek's family used the money to pay off debts, start college funds, and even donate to charities Millie had supported during her life. But they couldn't help but feel a little sad. Millie had spent her life in fear of scarcity, never realizing the abundance she already had. Part 9: The Secret Recipe Empire. This story shows how someone's secret can leave an unexpected legacy, and a lot of hungry people grateful for it. A guy named Chris shared a story about his grandma, who was known for one thing above all else: her cooking. Sunday dinners at Grandma's house were the stuff of legend, especially because of her signature dish, a mouth-watering lasagna that no one else in the family could replicate. Grandma never wrote down the recipe and always brushed off requests to teach anyone how to make it, saying, "It's just a little of this and a little of that." Everyone assumed she liked keeping it her secret, and no one pressed her. When Grandma passed away, Chris and his family found themselves reminiscing about her cooking, especially that lasagna. They decided to go through her kitchen, hoping to uncover some handwritten recipes. What they found instead changed everything. Tucked inside an old cookbook, they discovered a stack of documents, contracts, receipts, and correspondence. Turns out, Grandma had been selling her lasagna recipe to restaurants. Not just a few, but dozens of them. She had been licensing the recipe under different names to small Italian eateries all over the state. Chris and his family were floored. Grandma, who they thought had just been a passionate home cook, had built a quiet little empire by monetizing her culinary skills. She'd earned thousands of dollars over the years and had invested much of it into a trust fund for her grandkids, something she never told anyone about. But here's the wildest part. One of the restaurants using her recipe had won a regional food award for Best Lasagna, and no one in the family had a clue it was Grandma's dish. Chris later said, "It's funny. We thought we'd lost her lasagna forever, but now we know her cooking is out there for the world to enjoy. It's like a little piece of her is still alive." Part 10: The Ghostwriter Granddad. This last story is a testament to how someone's secret can completely change how you see them, even after they're gone. A woman named Clara shared the story of her grandfather, a quiet man who spent most of his days reading in his study. He wasn't the type to talk much, and Clara always assumed he was just a retired school teacher who enjoyed his solitude. When her grandfather passed away, Clara inherited a box labeled "For Clara" in his will. Inside, she found several worn notebooks and a small USB drive. At first, she thought the notebooks were just personal journals, until she started reading them. What she discovered blew her mind. Her grandfather had spent his entire life as a ghostwriter, but not just any ghostwriter. He had written some of the most famous novels of the past 4 decades. We're talking bestsellers, award winners, even a few books that had been adapted into blockbuster movies. The USB drive contained contracts and correspondence with publishers, all confirming his role in creating these iconic works. He'd used different pseudonyms to keep his identity a secret, never once taking public credit for his writing. Clara later learned that her grandpa had started ghostwriting as a young man to support his family, but as his career took off, he chose to stay anonymous because he didn't want fame to disrupt their lives. Writing had been his passion, but he didn't need the spotlight to feel fulfilled. Clara said the discovery changed everything she thought she knew about her grandfather. She couldn't believe that the man who had quietly encouraged her to write her own stories was, in fact, a literary legend. She ended her story by saying, "Grandpa taught me that greatness doesn't always need to be loud. Sometimes, the most amazing things are done quietly, just for the love of it." And that wraps up this incredible journey through some of the most bizarre, touching, and downright shocking secrets people have taken to their graves. These stories remind us that every person, no matter how ordinary they may seem, has a life filled with complexities, mysteries, and hidden layers that we might never truly uncover. So, here's the big question. What secrets do you think might be hiding in your own family history? Have you ever uncovered something that changed how you viewed someone forever? Or maybe you're holding on to a story yourself, one you're not quite ready to share. If you enjoyed this dive into the hidden lives of others, let us know in the comments below. Which story shocked you the most? Do you think you'd keep a similar secret, or would you share it with your loved ones? And hey, if you've got a wild story or a jaw-dropping secret to share, anonymously of course, drop it in the comments or DM us. Who knows? Maybe your story could inspire a future video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing stories like these. And as always, stay curious, because you never know what incredible truths might be hiding just beneath the surface. See you in the next video.